Dominique is a 12-year Toastmaster, an 8-year qualified speaker. She lives in Palm Springs with her husband of 21 years, owns and runs Escape Room Palm Springs. Suzanne, you should have learned how to get out of an escape room. Maybe that would have made your life easier the last 3 years. Anyway, one of the services she offers is team building. And as team building expert, Dom is going to edify us tonight on the nuances of team building that go beyond the ordinary. And something she didn't put in her introduction, she's an evaluator extraordinaire, one of the entirely super supreme evaluators in our district. And as I always tell people, when I get a lot of contacts about people that want to visit clubs, I always tell them, look for the club with the best evaluators, not the one with the best speakers, because the evaluators are the ones that are going to make you one of the best speakers. So get ready to think outside the box, and please help me welcome Dominique Fruchtman with her speech, Teen Dynamics Explained. Dominique?
Thank you, Tom, for that marvelous introduction. I'm going to edify everyone on the dynamics of team building in 3 ways. First, I'm going to explain the mechanics of team building and the psychology of team building. Then I'm going to give a couple of explanations and examples of an icebreaker. Then I'm going to give an example of real life corporate team building. And these are all things that you can take home and use right away, starting I would say tonight, but it's a little late, so maybe tomorrow. Anyway, the first thing I'd like to share with you is team dynamics. Now, you would think that maybe team dynamics would be, well, a bunch of people get together and they do stuff. No, you would not be correct. There are actually 4 phases of team dynamics that are most accepted, and they were created by a man named Bruce Tuckman. He was an educational psychologist, and this was in 1965, so this is not some newfangled thing. It's been around for a minute. What stuck about his little formula was these words all rhyme, but they also make sense. His theory was there's forming, storming, norming, and performing. So let's start with the first one, forming. A team forms. A group gets together. There's very little agreement. There's an unclear purpose, and it's chaotic. Okay. The next phase is storming. This is where there's conflict, increased clarity, and sometimes a power struggle if you get 2 strong personalities butting heads. The next phase is norming, where there is now some agreement, maybe some definition of roles, some division of labor, and perhaps even some delegation. And lastly, the performing stage. This is the proverbial well-oiled machine. This is the pit crew when you see NASCAR. This is where everyone has a clear vision, there's high focus, there's cooperation. If somebody says, hand me that flashlight, nobody puts their hands on their hips and goes, you're not the boss of me. They hand over the flashlight. There may not be a please or a thank you because this is the emergency room and we have something to get done. So it's just high performance teams, no egos. It's what do we have to do? How much time do we have? Let's get the show on the road. And that's the ideal goal. Now, it's important to note, whenever a team changes in any way, let's say one person steps away from the team, maybe gets a new job, or a new person comes onto the team, or somebody goes off and a new person comes on at the same time, everything reverts to stage 1, forming. And it goes through all the stages again. It's possible to go through all these stages inside of one day, or it might take a week or a month, or it could all happen in an hour. It depends on the team And it depends on the circumstances and who the people are and whether they've known each other from before. But regardless, these stages happen every time something in the group is altered. And that's team dynamics. Next, we move on to icebreakers. Now that you've got your terrific team together and they're about to do some team building, it's fun to break the ice, because even if they are a high performance team, chances are that they may not want to be wherever they are. They'd rather be doing what it is they do best. And there might be some resentment or some, what are we doing here? It's best to do something fun to break the ice. Even Ralph Smedley said, and I'm paraphrasing, that people learn best when they're having fun. I remember that quote because it's one of the reasons I joined Toastmasters. Here are 4 examples of some icebreakers that I find more fun than the standard walking on coal or trust drop. One is called the candy game. This is great because there's candy involved. You can use it with M&Ms, Skittles, or Starburst, as long as there are multicolored candies. So you get a bowl, put a bunch of candy in it, and the rules are you can take a handful, you can take as many as you want, as long as you leave enough for everyone else. And then you put the bowl back in the middle of the table, and however many different colors you have to answer a question about every color you have. So for the greens, it might be something about your childhood. For the yellows, it might be something about your personal life. You're like, are you married? Do you have kids? For red, it might be your hobbies. If you've just picked all the green M&Ms because you heard about green M&Ms, then you're only on the hook for one question. So now I've given you a little secret strategy, okay? But if you're like me and you just grab a handful because M&Ms, well, you might be talking for a couple minutes. Anyway, that's the candy game. The next one is 2 truths and a lie. This is a fun table topic sometimes. You give 2 statements about yourself, and it's better if they're things that people don't necessarily know about you. And maybe if they're a little unusual, it's even better. And then 1 outrageous lie. And see if people can guess which one is the lie. So in my case, it would be, I grew up with Quentin Tarantino. I used to be an underwear model. And I was once set on fire for 45 seconds. So you have to guess which one of those 3 is the lie. And I'll tell you at the end, which encourages you to stick around to the end. All right. So 2 truths and a lie. And then what you do is you have people vote or guess on, which one do you think is which. It's a fun bluffing game, but it also helps you get to know someone. And then later, when you meet for lunch or a break, you can go up to that person and say, wow, tell me about your time as a mountain climber or a goat wrangler, or do you really speak fluent Mandarin? So it's a conversation starter as well. The next one is paper airplane. Now this is real chaotic, and especially if you have a lot of time to kill. Everyone gets a piece of paper and a writing utensil, and they write their name and 2 questions that they wouldn't mind if somebody asked them. Nothing too personal. Let's keep it HR friendly. And then you make a paper airplane. It's okay if you're not an aeronautical engineer, just do what comes naturally and give it a toss. And then everybody, on the count of 3, everybody give it a toss, then go pick up any airplane that's not yours. Try to find that person. If they're with somebody else, wait your turn. And then ask that person those 2 questions. And somebody will eventually find you and try to get your 2 questions out of you. So it's chaotic because sometimes you're waiting, sometimes they're waiting on you, but it's noisy, and there's a lot of laughs and a lot of fun. Lastly, the year of the coin. Again, another fun table topics where you get a bowl full of coins that are preferably mixed up, and you have people take turns plucking a coin out. And for some of us, you may need a magnifying glass to read that year. But let's say it says, okay, 1973. Well, that was the year my sister was born. I was an only child forever and ever. And then I turned 10 and my mom got remarried. And now I have a sister. What the heck? Okay, well, I'll never forget that. 2001, the year I got married. So this is a quickie. This is easy because it has to be limited to just a one-liner. And it's fun for people to delve back into their memories and say, well, I don't remember much because it was a college, one of my college years, and it's all kind of a blur. So it might be funny, but it will be quick. Those are the 4 icebreakers. Now we'll move on to a real life corporate team building event. And I'll give you an example of something I'm using at the Department of Corrections, California State Prison at Chuckwalla in Blythe. I am not training the prisoners and I'm not training the guards, but I am training the healthcare staff, 177 of them, but 30 at a time. 6 groups of 5 people each at a table with simple dollar store ingredients, a bag of marshmallows and a box of spaghetti. We tell them, you have 8 minutes to create the tallest structure you can. Ready, go. Some teams rip open the box, rip open the marshmallows and start building with no plan, no strategy, no nothing. Others will take the paper and pencil we gave them and start drawing things and planning things out very painstakingly. They use some planning time and some building time. And it's fun to see who does what. And at the end of the 8 minutes, we blow the whistle and whatever you have, and we measure them and we announce a winner. And then we clean, and everybody applauds and we clean up the mess and everybody thinks we're going to move on to something different, but we don't. We do the same game, except we give little envelopes to everybody. In the envelope is a 3x5 card. And on one of the 3x5 cards per table of 5, we let them know, now one of the 5 of you, open your envelope and look at your card. One of you has a little X in the corner. That person is the saboteur. You're the traitor. Your job is to subtly, skillfully, and without anyone else knowing, sabotage this project and be a traitor. Now, whether you choose to eat the marshmallows or be a klutz or passive aggressive is totally up to you how you go about it. But your goal is to not be helpful and work against the team. So at the end, we ask, okay, who was the traitor? And that person will raise their hand and everybody will laugh and say, oh, I thought it was you. No, it was you. There's a lot of finger pointing and laughing. So we ask them, how did it feel to be working on a project where you knew someone was working against you? And we let them discuss that amongst themselves and talk about the feelings of paranoia or hopelessness or disheartenment. And it's very interesting to see how the morale is affected by this. Then we clean up and we have the last one of the day, the third one. And we hand them envelopes again. And we tell them, okay, there's another traitor among you. Ready, go. And now they're really on point and they're looking at each other and everybody's giving each other the stink eye. And the paranoia is so thick you could cut it with a knife. At the end, the structures are usually a mess. The paranoia is so heavy that nobody gets much done, being so suspicious of everyone else. And we tell them, guess what? We were just kidding. None of you was a saboteur this time. What do you think of that? The double plot twist. And then we ask them, how did it feel to believe the office gossip? To believe the rumors? To fall for the story you heard at the water cooler? Well, let this be a lesson to you. Don't believe it until you have facts. No one was out to get you. And as it turns out, the first structure is almost always the best one. Not the one where someone was working against them, and not the one where they thought someone was working against them, even though they had practice and should have known what they were doing much better by the third time around. So that's an example of actual corporate team building. So what have you gotten tonight? You've gotten team dynamics, forming, storming, norming, performing. You've gotten a couple of fun icebreakers, the candy game, the paper airplane, the year of the coin, the 2 truths and a lie. Oh, and by the way, I was not an underwear model growing up, but I did grow up with Quentin Tarantino, and I was set on fire because I am a retired stunt woman and I was in Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. So there's my trivia. Who knew? And lastly, you got an example of corporate team building and the kinds of little twists and games that we mess with people and have loads of fun and leave lots for them to talk about when they go to dinner or have a coffee break together. I hope I've left you with something to take away, to maybe bring to your Toastmasters group or your next party game or barbecue or grandkids' birthday party or whatever. But regardless, at least now you know what you're looking at when it comes to team building, icebreakers, and